Alright, now for yet another swinging type weapon. The Crutch. An ordinary wooden crutch. So this is the full form of the broken crutch. You can only find this in one scenario in both Outbreak 1 and Outbreak 2. In Outbreak 1, you can only find it in the Hive scenario, and in Outbreak 2, I believe you can only find it in the flashback scenario. Alright, so let's test the crutch out. Alright, so according to the damage FAQ, the Crutch does considerably more damage than the Iron Pipe. In Outbreak 1, anyway. In Outbreak 2, however, it does the same damage as the Iron Pipe. Has 110 damage in Outbreak 2, and 100 in Outbreak 1. So they're similar between the games. Alright, so let's test the Crutch out on a zombie. Alright, so only 7 hits with the Crutch to defeat a zombie in normal mode. So yeah, it's true that the Crutch is much more powerful than the Iron Pipe in Outbreak 1. In Outbreak 2, however, I'm pretty sure it's going to take the same amount of hits as an Iron Pipe would. Well, it's pretty much it for the Crutch. Nothing else to say about it, other than it, once again, it's exclusive to only one level in each game. So that is it for the Crutch. Alright, now for another melee weapon. The Axe. A blood-covered, rusty axe. Now this weapon is exclusive to Outbreak File 2 and the flashback scenario. It's the main weapon of choice for the Axeman, hence his name. Alright, so let's test the axe out. Ooh. Alright, so it's looking like a pretty lethal weapon. Since it's exclusive to this scenario, it has more than one use. You could use it as a regular weapon, and what's awesome about it is it does not have an endurance limit. So once you have it, you can use it for the rest of the scenario. There's certain tentacles in this level that try to grab your leg. You could use it on those things and it defeats it permanently, I believe. But it's also a really good weapon in the final boss battle in this scenario, where you'll go up against those evil shades and those ivy plants. So I'm gonna test this axe on a zombie. If it takes one hit, then I know a better enemy to test it on, the Axeman. So I'll show you both if I can.
Someone help me!
God damn it, George. George! Alright, so it took 5 hits from the axe to defeat a zombie. Pretty decent weapon. Just not probably the best weapon to use on the green zombies, since they could poison you if you're too close. Alright, now to test it on the Axeman. Well, they won't stop interfering! But anyway, that took 12 hits with a couple handgun shots added to the mix, so it's probably gonna be 12 to 14 hits. Really not worth your time to deal with him unless you got those green chemical bottles. Alright, so the axe is a decent weapon, only exclusive to this scenario. That is it for the axe. Alright, we are closing in to finally being finished with all the melee weapons. So, I have about 4 more weapons to review, and all 4 of them are weapons only David can create. So the first one is this. The 2 melee weapons you need to create this weapon is a butcher knife and a wooden pole. Now in Outbreak File 2, I believe you could also use the long pole and a butcher knife to create this weapon. So this is what happens. The spear. A handmade spear with a butcher knife attached at the end. It is a pretty good weapon. The flame spray was the weakest of David's created weapons. This one's the next up. So once again, I'm going by damage here. But I'm pretty sure this weapon is powerful enough to where you can actually kill the basic enemies in the game. All the melee weapons at this point are more than just defense. You can actually use them to defeat basic enemies. Alright, let's test the spear out. Alrighty, let's test the spear on a zombie. Alright, so 6 hits with the spear to kill a zombie. Now, you didn't know, but my controller vibrated on one of those hits, which means it must have been critical somehow. So it's possible that if there are no critical hits, it might take 7. In normal mode. So yeah, this is a pretty decent weapon. Even though it's a created weapon, it does degrade like all the other melee weapons. I believe that once it degrades, it turns back into a wooden pole. Alright, well, that is it for the spear. Now for the next melee weapon created by David. Take an iron pipe and a concrete piece. You get the hammer. A handmade hammer with a concrete piece attached at the end. I really like this melee weapon. It is my personal favorite melee weapon in both games. Alright, let's test the hammer out. Alright, so one of the reasons this is my favorite weapon is even though it's not the strongest melee weapon, it always tends to floor a zombie. So let's test the hammer on a zombie. Alright, so only 3 hits with the hammer to take down a zombie. So yeah, if you ever get your hands on this, you can definitely use this weapon for regular use. But once again, it does degrade eventually, and when it does, it turns into a curved iron pipe. Alright, I'm also gonna do a fun little thing with Mark in Outbreak File 2. I'm gonna use his Ultra Swing on a zombie and watch him go flying. But anyway, that is it for the hammer. Alright, now for the last melee weapon in Outbreak File 1. You combine the iron pipe with the battery. You get the stun rod. Its end is equipped with a device that emits high voltage. Alright, so this is the strongest melee weapon in the game. It has a damage of 360, I believe, while the hammer was only 240. So let's test the stun rod out. Nice. Alright, so the stun rod is a poking and prodding weapon. Let's test the stun rod on a zombie. Alright, so 3 hits with the stun rod to take down a zombie. Now I know for a fact that it is more powerful than the hammer, but obviously not enough to make a difference with the amount of hits of a zombie. It all depends on the health points of the enemy compared to the hit points of the weapon. Alright, well that concludes the stun rod, as well as all melee weapons in Outbreak 1. But there is just one more melee weapon, or non-firearm really, that is exclusive to Outbreak File 2. Now for the final non-firearm weapon, and the last weapon created only by David. Now all you need is a battery, really. Now what you need to do is you take David's junk parts, and you combine them with the battery, and you get the time bomb. Use lighter to set. Explodes after a fixed amount of time. So yeah, unfortunately, you do need a lighter to activate this after it's created. Luckily, David's extra item is a lighter, so you'll have to request it from him after he makes the timer bomb, if he keeps it anyway. But there's an awesome glitch you could perform to where you do not need the lighter to activate the timer bomb. All you have to do is simply give it to an AI character and then ask them to use it. That's one of the cool things about Outbreak File 2. You can ask your partners to use items. It will automatically ignite regardless that they didn't have a lighter. Alright, so let's test the time bomb out. Oh, alright. So the time bomb produces quite a massive explosion, and it's funny because in the damage FAQ, they say that this weapon, it's only really useful for the crowd of zombies that you fight at the end of the Desperate Times scenario. So they say it's better off used as a door opener, and that just proved it right there. It immediately opened that door, didn't even take effort. So yeah, you gotta be careful around this weapon though, it could also damage you. And if you're super close to it, you will be immediately in danger status, apparently. Alright, so I don't think there's a point to really testing this weapon out on any enemies, because it's gonna kill all of them in just one hit. I know it would be nice to see a zombie go flying though, so I will test it on a lone zombie, just for laughs.
David!
Let's move it.
Yeah.
Alright, so I blew up a zombie, myself, and my partner. So yeah, that is a dangerous weapon indeed. Alright, well, that is it for the time bomb as well as all melee weapons.